Hello, everyone. Hello. Okay, get it. Got to organize for the logistics here. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Great. Thanks so much for warming up the city with all your bodies. We really appreciate it. I mean, really. Who here knows about a brand called Frank and Oak? Thank you. Who here has bought from Frank and Oak? Oh, thank you. So I'm wearing a stylish Frank and Oak shirt, in case you hadn't noticed. Just in case. Today I'm going to talk to you about, I think you've heard a lot of really great things. I was here listening to Helge's stuff, and he's done some pretty cool things. I'm sure lots of you would like to start, possibly a company. Who here would like to start a company? That's awesome. That's what we need in the world. When you start, what's amazing is that you do everything from A to Z, right? From negotiating with your banker or your lawyers to buying the toilet paper. And sometimes people want to know, how does it work at first? So I'm going to actually explain that and talk to you a bit about what I think it's like to be an entrepreneur. Would you like to hear that?
Yes.
Would you like to hear that?
Yes.
Woo! Such great energy here. Amazing. So before I start off, I'm going to tell you what I do. Actually, my background, in case you didn't know. So I'm actually an electrical engineer. So I did a lot of software engineering classes as well. Made my first dollar online when I was 13, doing all sorts of little websites and coding. My computer used to work on a computer where you had to plug into the internet with a noise. Some people laughing. The good old 56.6. I was so happy when I was downloading at 6K a second. Still today, I'm amazed when I hit a meg. I'm still really, really amazed. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to do things. And I actually studied engineering, electrical engineering, because I love technology. I always loved building things. I always loved, I had lots of Legos when I was a kid. And I always loved doing all sorts of stuff. My partner and I, our first business actually was in multimedia. We did some videos. We had actually a multimedia company while we were in high school and university. And before I actually started my own thing, I decided to work in management consulting. So maybe that's a career that some of you would like to take as well. It's really a different path than doing traditional engineering. Lots of good stuff to learn. You work with great people and you see all sorts of companies. But after that, what I realized is that I didn't want to be just watching the game. I wanted to play the game. I wanted to be exactly on the field and understand. I wanted to feel the pain. I want to feel the joy, and that's exactly what it's like to be an entrepreneur. When you're an entrepreneur, the highs are highs, they're really, really high, the lows are really low, but you're on the roller coaster. And that's a choice you make as an entrepreneur, to live this high and this low, and it's an amazing feeling. So we actually launched Frank and Oak in February 2012, so it's going to be 3 years soon. But I actually quit my corporate career, suit career, in 2009. So the question is, what happened between these 3 years, right? And that's what I'm going to tell you today. Frank and Oak is, for those of you who don't know, our goal is to be the #1 brand for the modern man, actually. Our goal is to create something unique for the creative generation. This is these are our customers. Yes, they take selfies. Who here has taken a selfie of himself or herself? Oh, nice. Well, people laugh here, huh? We opened up the kimono. It's okay to take selfies. It's the new thing, And I was really, really surprised because I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know actually guys would do that. Turns out that when we did that in February 2012, about a third of our members came from people, clicking on links on Twitter that people had done selfies of themselves. Our guy, as you can see, is 18 to 35, but very specifically, he's 26, iPhone, no kid, first or second job, works maybe in engineering, advertising, marketing. There's two big differences with this guy compared to the other generation of men is that, first of all, our specific client, he gets married at 37 and not 24. And that's a big difference, right? Because what it means is that he buys his clothes himself often, or with the help of friends. It's not his wife that buys for him. And second of all, as you guys all know, the workplace is getting less and less formal. So, we don't wear a suit every day. We don't actually have, shirts and ties. It's not necessarily this full suit every single day. So in other words, guys have to learn how to dress, because you have to learn mix and match patterns. And number two, they have to do it themselves, which is kind of like an interesting concept. But we still end up doing it, and it's not bad. As you can see, there's a lot of good-looking men here. The ladies are laughing. So basically, that's our guy. And what we do at Frank & Oak is that we think we have a truly unique approach where we combine technology, data, and design. And that's, I would say, more or less our business model, where at the core we actually have style and quality products. Like we actually design and source and distribute menswear. We have our own team of designers, our own label. We complement that with, I would say, deep personalized and the technology platform. We actually have more web developers and a bigger tech product team than actual menswear design team. And we also have a big, I would say, content and inspiration team that takes care of the culture and how to organize for what we portray as a company to the customer. What's cool is that it basically loops around, right? The guy comes in, he gets some shirts, he's aware of the experience, he feels it, and he reads the content, he reads, he checks out maybe a SoundCloud playlist, and he comes back in again. So basically we create this loop where a customer actually comes back into our site and is engaged and keeps buying. What I write in the middle there is the web, mobile, brick and mortar, and data science, or all these accelerators that help the client go faster through this loop. And I say brick and mortar because we're 100% born online and mobile, and we actually recently opened up a couple of actual physical locations. So who here is from Halifax? Can you see that strength? So we have a little shop over there in Halifax. Who here is from Calgary? Yeah. There we go. Deeper voice. You two, you said you didn't want to say anything. Ottawa? Woo! That was strong voice. Vancouver? That's right. Montreal? Yeah. That's powerful. And Toronto? Woo! All right, Calgary, let's hear it again. Yeah. All right, well done. Let's give a big round of applause. Great job. So back to the early days of a startup. Do you guys know a company called MotiSuite? So MotiSuite is actually the company before Frank & Oak. What's interesting is a lot of people, put out products out there, whether it's Instagram or small products, and then it turns out that the real product is an evolution of a previous product. And Frank & Oak is actually the evolution of a company we built from 2009 to 2011 called MotiSuite. MotiSuite actually was a made-to-measure retailer for men. So in other words, guys would go in, they could actually put in their measurements like in a website, and we'd actually craft a shirt and suit for them, made to measure, and ship it from overseas back to the customer. Why we did that? So we realized we had access to a supply chain that was pretty differentiated. One day my partner comes back from China, he's like, hey, my family's in the garment industry, I never realized it. Why don't we do something about it? And I said, let's bring it online, let's do a website, let's do all that stuff so we can actually sell this product. Because the goal was to create a cool product. Like, I always enjoyed coding and technology and computers, but I really enjoyed is actual physical things. Like, you design a bottle, a microphone, a computer, it's really cool to see the physicality of something that you build. And that was our goal actually when we started to create amazing products. And that's what we created, MotiSuite. So what's funny is that, if you remember, I asked you who knows Frank & Oak, and a lot of people said yes. I asked you who knows MotiSuite, and no one said anything. Now you realize why Frank & Oak exists. Because if everybody said, yes, I know MotiSuite, we probably would not have, found something else. And that's the whole theory of a startup, is that you have to keep iterating and keep pushing, keep digging to actually find that wave, find that path, and what others call the product market fit, where you have a product and you have a market, and when they go together and they fit, it just rides. And this is exactly what you can see when you achieve this product market fit. So what's really cool about creating a full supply chain and an actual product from tech to supply chain to logistics is that you have to end up finding suppliers. So a lot of people realize that when you do a company, it's awesome to do code and it's great to push an app on the App Store because it's real. When you actually ship goods and ship boxes, it's real as well. So there's a huge complexity within our tech stack, but also a lot of complexity with our supplier base. And that's something that we invested in from the start. And so this is my co-founder. We went over there in China. He figured out, meet some people, organize for our supply chain. and just partnered with people and suppliers that we can ship our product. In the meantime, actually, what we did is that we also developed our platform for mass customization. So we took a website, organized for the code, did the full layout, and all that was done in parallel. So if you think about it, we were kind of like, we were running around, right? We quit our corporate jobs. We worked at the supply chain, at the logistics, at our website, and also at recruiting, and of course funding, to make sure we could actually deliver a product that made sense. And what happened is that we ended up launching, so many problems, fighting. It's not easy, right, to create a product and you want people to buy. At first, for sure, it's easy to get your brother or your mom to buy. But then once you want to get into more and more people, it gets challenging. And about a year later, in March 2011, we actually raised our very first seed round. And that helped us a lot, right? Because first of all, we got money. That's fun. And because, when you work in nice corporate jobs, you have very nice credit cards. Yes, that's dangerous. So basically what happens is that you end up having lots of debt, and then that's great because you can fund your business, but you also have to have other sources of capital. When you start off a company, people say you need money from the 3 Fs. Anybody knows what the 3 Fs stands for? Come on, Calgary. No, all right. Oh, hand up.
Family, friends, financing.
Not bad. You said family, friends, the last F is fools. Because that's who give you money, right? They're the only ones who can give you money. So what we did is we got the money, and were they fools or family or friends? You could argue either way. But all that to say that we just spent time developing more products, trying to find the right product market fit. Whether these products are actual physical garments or a new website, we just kept iterating and motivating and making sure that we could actually hustle. And you see, that's what I loved, right? Like, I just really, really love grinding at something to making sure it works. It's tough, and you have lots of failures, but ultimately, that's what it's like. People tell you, oh, you have to work day and night, and you have to be in the garage and just not stop. But in a way, it's kind of true. Because you end up creating you end up creating a little surf shop. Like, you have, a bunch of people, a bunch of guys, and you're together, and you live and breathe it, and you work a lot. So you have to make sure first of all, you have great people around you that can really, really understand what you're trying to do. And second of all, you have to make sure that people are passionate about what they do. And what's really, really cool is that if you can find a partner, or if you actually want to be the leader and the entrepreneur to actually launch the business, well, there's a lot of people out there who are ready to help. There's a lot of people out there who are ready to actually want to make a difference and contribute. So it's actually relatively easy to start. And then afterwards, it's like to start, you need to have enough courage to jump. That's the first step, right? Jump into it. And afterwards, you can actually grind, go through it, and you'll find people left and right. And that's when you need the most time and cash to actually find your product market fit to get your company to another level, basically. And basically, in November 2011, and if you think about it, it was 2 years later, we actually needed more money. When we raised actually our seed round in March 2011, often when you raise these small chunks of money, it's for a 12-month period. So we were like, oh, it's November, December, we're out of cash in a couple months, right? We better start doing something. But what we realized is that we kind of had two types of clients. Like, we actually had, because remember, we used to make made-to-measure clothes, right? So people used to come on the site, just look at the videos, talk to us on live chat. We'd instruct them how to measure themselves, and then we would actually craft a garment from them and ship it to them. So it's a lot of friction, right? If you think about it, what ended up happening as we looked at the data and asked so many of our customers, we had 2 types of customers. We had one type of customer who was a guy who would buy twice a year, be happy, but then you know what? He would return every single thing because it was 1 centimeter too long or too short. Now think about it. What do you do with a made-to-measure shirt that has been returned to you? Of course, in e-commerce and online, you have to do free shipping, free returns. Well, you can't really do anything with that shirt, right? Of course, there's many things you can do, but it's tough to actually do something. And then we had another type of client, more younger, more active client who actually bought every month or every other month. Sometimes he bought made-to-measure stuff. Sometimes he bought ready-to-wear stuff, so not made-to-measure. Sometimes he bought accessories. And we were like, that guy's pretty interesting, right? We were like, that guy, who is that guy? And that's when we realized that we had done all these things for a guy that we always kind of knew, but we didn't cater to the right product. And that guy, actually, what's interesting is that if you think about it, the internet generation, they are used, and like all yourselves and myself, used to consuming information, media, and bits and pieces. So in other words, you check out Twitter, you check out Facebook, so you always consume a bit of left and right. We're from the iTunes generation where we buy a song and not an album, right? So in other words, it's kind of like we need small chunks all the time. So we're like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and we kept thinking about it. And then what we realized, and that's exactly what I write here, like we had done so many set iterations, so many trip stages, we had achieved, not, I would say relatively okay sales number in terms of how we did, but that was just not what we wanted to do. This is the business cat with a sad face. And he says, kind of like what I said, I talked about the friction, but the first thing is that the biggest players were not that big. And it's kind of like the realization, right? You step back and you think, wow, all of our guys, they buy from us, that's cool, and we like that. There's not that many guys, but we kind of realize what's the total addressable market? What are what's the upper limit on the market? Like who's the biggest guy out there? Because if you think about, any type of company, often in software, your biggest competitor might be Microsoft. Well, that's like, a pretty significant company. Or the market is massive, in online software. And we looked at made-to-measure stuff, and we realized, wow, the biggest company is not really that big. So is that something we want to do? And the biggest, one of the main things that, also alerted us is the custom fit aspect does not equal the preferred fit. Like you would have thought that a guy who buys who has his measurements, would repeat all the time, he keeps buying, and he would just realize, wow, I really like this because it's always for me. Turns out that a lot of the guys don't like when it's perfectly fitted for them within a reasonable price point. So it's kind of like you're like, I don't really want that fit, I just want a large. And finally, like it was a pretty frictionful experience, right? To just ask everybody to put their measurements online, to get them to order and wait 3-4 weeks for their product, and to get the product, and the expectations are so high because it's made for me. It's like, oh, this fits like this, I'm not sure. So these are all these things that we realized that, wow, that was probably not the best for our customer. And as we step back, like we thought, like, okay, we understand that, this guy market pretty well. We want to cater to this internet generation client. We want to basically always be passionate about what we do about a product. And we want to be, I would say, have a differentiator and have like something that we could be really good at within a big context. And when I talked to you earlier about how people consume and want to buy all the time a bit small in pieces, we realized that we actually had something unique, which is a supply chain built on made-to-measure stuff. In other words, individual pieces. So we could actually ask our suppliers, hey, instead of making one shirt at a time, why don't you make 1 month at a time? So a lot more shirts, the same thing. Of course, the suppliers were super happy because they were like, oh, that's really, really interesting. Like, I love doing that. That's what I like to do, not made-to-measure stuff. So we said, wow, maybe we can turn that supply chain around and do something for our customer. And then we could still cater to this guy in a unique way. And so what we did in a true, I would say, lean startup methodology is that we actually did a landing page, launched a pure landing page December 2011, and within the same month. And if you remember, actually, I told you that we were running out of cash, in March, right? So that's December. If you go to the Burgundy Lion in Montreal, you will notice this is the background. So what's cool about a lot of our imagery is that we actually take pictures in Montreal spaces. Like sometimes we're not allowed to, but we still do it. And anyways, I could tell you lots of stories about that. But that's what happened. We just launched a landing page. And then I decided that we had to go all in, right? Because ultimately, I had been doing this for a couple of years. I was like, this has to be the year that we do something great with our product, our company, and we know so much about our customer, and we love our customer, and there's something to be done there. So when I see this slide, I love this slide because, I'm all in, so I put all my chips on the table, and basically, it's gonna hurt. So I need my first aid kit. And basically what's interesting is that that's what happens when you just put it out there and you go big or you go home. And that was actually my resolution of 2012, you go big or you go home, to try and see what's gonna happen. So we did it, we actually launched on February 14, 2012. February 14th because we are actually quite romantic. And basically we said, what's funny is that 2 weeks earlier we had said to our board, because we had raised some money, so we actually had, more of a real structure with the board of directors, and we said, guys, we like, what we do, but we realize that we have to go after a much bigger opportunity. There's a much cooler market out there. We just have to go after it. And we're gonna turn the company, we're gonna new branding, new approach to the client, forget made to measure. This is gonna be the way with a monthly collection. And they said, oh, really? And one of our investors, who's actually a great angel investor who's more of who shoots from the hip a lot more, and he said, you know what? If it works, I'm gonna give you more money. And that was enough for us. Because afterwards I realized, wow, he didn't say, what about the other if there, if it doesn't work? Because there's always an A/B test there, right? And then I was like, okay, that's good enough. And so we launched it. And what ended up happening is that 2 weeks later, we had actually 20,000 new signups, and Time Magazine called. So for us, we were like, that's fun. It's very fun. And on the first day, we sold that many items, 145 items. And on one day, we actually had only one rack of clothes. If you ever want to visit our space, you're welcome, and you'll realize we have a lot of rack of clothes now. And we had nothing left. We were like, wow, this is like working. People are eating. People are eating this. It's amazing. And we were stoked. And of course, what we had done people often ask that question, how'd you get so many signups quickly? And maybe you guys remember this old viral mechanic of, the site is gated, yes, but if you want to have access to the site, there's a waiting list and you need to invite 2-3 friends to come in. And so basically, this was, if you think 2012, that was, I guess this mechanic now is pretty outdated, but in 2012, that was like, oh, of course I'm going to invite friends to skip the lineup, all that stuff. And we had actually also gotten a lot of press from the media on the West Coast. All these people hit our website. They were all very active on Twitter and Facebook, so they all shared. And right away, it created this snowball effect of having more and more people within a viral loop. And what's fun is that we had so many people tweeting and sharing on Twitter that we had, like, the guys called us from Twitter and said, hey, did you guys hack us over there in Montreal? And I was like, what? That was probably a great compliment they gave us, right? Because we had no idea that was going to happen. We just tried, right? Because that's what you do when you start. You just try all sorts of things. You throw it at the wall and you see what sticks. And that was the first, I would say, couple weeks. And the first full month, actually, this is a great picture because you have boxes everywhere. Is you have stuff everywhere. Like you just have the true garages. You have really, really stuff everywhere. Missing desks, people running around, coding all afternoon, doing boxes at night. It was just an amazing adventure. And we realized that the first full month, we ended up selling 3 times the MotivateSuite record. So that's when basically that you've achieved something, is that what you thought was working so well and was so tough, and you worked on it for 2-3 years. And now you have this new model that you've adapted, and after 2-3 months, you beat the sales record 3 times. And then basically, in the next 18 months after that, we grew the team from around 8 to 100 people. And now we're around 140 people across Canada. And that was exactly 2.5 or 3 years ago. And what's really cool, if you look at these pictures, you have a nice big screen there. Top left, right, you have one of our core first developers, who's awesome, Raf, and basically he was the very first backend developer. You have so many boxes everywhere. You have some sort of big whiteboard, to-do list, and then on the back you see it's nighttime, of course, because he's coding nighttime. And we're all there still. And at the bottom you see one of the early employees there, Catherine, who's kind of like crying with a beard. And that's what you do, right? Because you work so late and you're just emotional and you have lots of fun. And on the bottom there, yeah, right, that's okay. And on the bottom left there, you have more of the office and just like, I don't know if you see, but there's like something in the back there in the window. You guys see that? It's actually a pirate flag. You guys know the reference, right? Of the pirate flag? Who knows the reference?
Monty Python.
Sorry?
Monty Python.
Monty Python, not bad, not bad. Who put a pirate flag on their building? Apple, yes, exactly. So Steve Jobs decided that he'd rather be a pirate than join the Marine. And I thought it was a great quote to just always remember to just think about doing things a bit differently so that you can move faster and faster. And that's why we hung up a pirate flag on the window there, so that as we looked outside, because of course we only had one window, you could always see the pirate flag. And that was kind of like the story, actually, of the first, I would say, 18 months or before Frank and Oak, and afterwards, the Frank and Oak couple of months stories. I can tell you a lot more stories. I wanted to focus on what it's like at the beginning. And I would say to summarize, the beginning is like, First step is you just gotta jump, right? Think about it, like, when you're just graduating university, you know so many things, you're hungry, and you need to balance, your experience with the fact that you don't know anything, which is a good thing. Because I still don't know anything, but it's kind of like a mix between being arrogant and being humble, a mix between I want to learn or I know. And I think being an entrepreneur is really about a balance all the time. So I'm going to tell you what it's like, what I think, since I've been an entrepreneur for a couple of years, what it's like to be an entrepreneur as I step back. What do you guys think? You want to hear this? Yeah. Calgary? He's gone. He's gone. All right, Ottawa? Yes! Man, this guy's on fire. All right, so what I think it's like to be an entrepreneur is that, people, you always hear these big success stories left and right, and the thing about big success stories and overnight successes is, as you saw people might think, oh, you guys, Frank and Oak, you grew so fast, but now you know that actually we've been working at this for quite a long time. But the big thing is that things take time. And somebody once told me, you have to give time to time. We're so hungry, we want to do everything left to right, so you have to, great things take time. But if you think about it, every day is a race, and as a startup and as a young company, your unique advantage is speed. And like today, we have, let's say, around 25, 30 people on our tech team. It takes a lot more time to push code live. And because we have, QA processes, check this, check that, which is the great thing to do. Before, we used to push all the time. And that was great. We broke stuff, and sometimes bad things, but we could just move faster. Like, that's a really, really big advantage that you have to always remember. So if you think about it, it's really, really a big balance, because sometimes you have to really work super fast, super hard all the time, push, push, push. But you also have to have the patience and the mindset that great things really take time. So as an entrepreneur, you have to really organize yourselves to fight the battle today, but really win the war tomorrow. And I tell a lot of the guys that work with us that you always have to manage planning tomorrow, delivering today, and catching up yesterday. So if you want to do that at a high level while changing the world, do you want to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Because we're recruiting. I'm kidding, no, we are, but the idea is that as an if you want to go into entrepreneurship, I think it's an amazing career. I used to, I was sitting in your place. I went to do these conferences too as a student. I loved it, and I did also so many different things. And I think there's nothing more, I would say, rewarding than seeing some of your staff grow, seeing some of your product grow, seeing some of your people wear your stuff and be happy. And one day, actually, I had that realization, is that, I'll tell you a little story, is that I stepped out of my house. I live, in Montreal, and I saw on the ground, in front of my neighbor's porch, his apartment, there was a Frank and Oak box. Like, it was recycling day. He took out his shirt, he left the box in the street. And I was like, wow, that's so cool, my neighbor recycles. We have the same values, it's amazing. But, beyond that, I thought, wow, look at that. I actually I don't know my neighbor. I'm social, but I just never had a chance to say hi. But anyways, I just realized that that guy, my neighbor, who I really don't talk to all the time, he doesn't know, I started Frank and Oak, and turns out that, he actually buys from Frank and Oak now. And I thought that was amazing when I stepped out of my house and I sat out on the ground. And it's kind of like actually I'm gonna go this thing. No, not this. I have a quote for you. There we go. Walt Disney, guys, what did he say? It's kind of fun to do the impossible. 5 minutes, guys. That's exactly the end of my presentation. It's kind of fun to do the impossible. So that's what I said. I'm serious about it, but of course, it's always fun to mention. I actually got a job after a conference when I was to do an internship while I was sitting in your place. Developers, product managers, social media, people at Frank and Oak, cool office, cool people, cool stuff, cool code. And we can do this city challenge in the office if you want to. I'm here, questions, answers, having fun. Please, let's start off.
Yes, hi, thanks for the nice talk. I just wanted to ask you, as someone who started a company that's in such a risque market, someone who's working with clothes, I feel like, it's such a contrast from what we've seen otherwise working with deep technologies. How do you feel about having your company looking forward into like the next 10 years or so? Do you feel like you have a sustainable business plan?
Absolutely. So yeah, and I think that's why I like to have the opportunity to talk here, because it's different, right? You guys hear a lot about deep technologies, all sorts of coding, but if you think about, for example, banking, who's the biggest provider of payment transfer today? It's PayPal, and not the Royal Bank of Canada. Why is that? Because the Royal Bank of Canada doesn't have the DNA of PayPal. So in every single industry, things will evolve and new companies will form driven by technology. So at the heart of our team, actually, the DNA is tech and design together. So in other words, like, we view the world a lot differently. Like, some of the biggest retailers that you might have seen that have failed in Canada come to see us after before, like, how do you guys do it? Well, they don't think the same. They don't think the same because they don't have this tech DNA inside of them. So as a company, I think the whole world of retail is definitely changing, but we are seeing tremendous growth and opportunities to basically change that entire mindset of retail and how it's evolved today. And the really good news is, of course, people say, oh, you sell clothes, it might be tough to do sometimes. But the good thing about clothes is that, as you guys can all see here, you're all wearing some. Except for that guy there, no, I'm kidding. and basically, so in other words, it's a massive, multi-billion dollar market. So like, people will always need to wear clothes. And then the innovators in clothes will be the ones that actually leverage technology to create a fully connected experience for the customer.
All right, thank you.
Cheers. Who's next?
Me.
Great. Where are you from?
Back there. I'm from Ottawa.
Ottawa, amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty great. You had two companies, right? You had the first one, which was Moda Clothes.
Yes, that's why it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I don't remember the
Bad
name.
Moda School, yeah.
Yeah. I was just curious how you changed the name, obviously, and how you came up with the second name. Did you get a marketing team and they were like, this name sucks, pick a different one? Or did they suggest stuff, or did you just say, oh, hey, I like these things?
So how do we come up with the name Frank and Oak?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a deep question.
You
You guys want to know how we came up with that name?
Yeah.
So, naming your company or project is always difficult, right? Truth is, it doesn't really matter, because, you can always, make your name something. But you can think about your name, because if you think about it, your parents thought about yours. And for example, Amazon, they picked something that starts with A. You know why? Yeah, it's the first letter. And in when they started in '94, all websites were alphabetical. So they figure A will be always the first website. When we thought about Frank and Oak, actually, I'm going to give you some deep thinking about the name here. You remember our client who we sell to? Well, Frank. Frank, he's the cool guy. Frank, he has maybe a car, maybe he has, a couple of girlfriends, he goes out. He might be studying engineering, doesn't matter. He's kind of a cool guy. And Oak, well, Oak, Oak, he knows how to cook. Oak, he, maybe he's a great, brother or boyfriend, and he knows how to dance. And so Oak is basically, and Frank and Oak is actually duality of the modern man. So us guys, if you think about it, us guys, we want to be cool with the boys, but then we also, want to be, bring flowers to the girlfriend. So Frank and Oak is the confusion of the modern man.
All right. Thank you.
So now you all know. Modern man's confused, wants to go out and bring you flowers, ladies.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Great.
Hi.
Hello.
Your company grew very quickly. How did you scale it so much in size while maintaining the original culture?
Yeah, I think that's always a great challenge, how to maintain. So growth is a huge challenge in general, because, you don't want to stop to fix stuff. So you have to fix as you grow. And sometimes it's kind of like, wow, what you thought worked, for a month needs to be changed. Or I think you always have to think in stages. When you're at a certain step here, you have to do all these things, and that works, and that's okay. And then when you're at another level, you have to rethink a lot of these other things step by step. So culture is definitely one that, it's really important to maintain. And for you guys that want to grow a big company, I would tell you the key number is once your company is around 40 to 60 employees, you have to like do some things that change a lot. Like you have to think about how you organize for culture. Like you have to think about your HR a lot more. You have to do organized events. You have to actually kind of have more processes around talent and culture, because before it kind of happens organically. Like before you know everyone, before like often the founders or the leadership, they're like the culture hub. That's still the case later, but then you have to think more about how you organize for these processes. I would think on the tech side, it's really about the balance between tech debt and growth, like control and growth, I would say. So, like for example, us, like we used to release features all the time. They were like not great. We grew so fast, and first a year and a half, 2 years, the code quality was not there. And our team did an amazing job pulling all this together so fast. But now you see, for example, we're refactoring some of our core, doing all sorts of unit testing everywhere. You're spending the time to redo a lot of the early stuff. Why? Because it's time to do it. Like there's a time for everything. And I think at certain stages, you're going to realize what the time is for that. And to help you guide, and to help guide you through these stages, I think this is what Helge said earlier. It's kind of like you have to think about your mentorship circle and your advisor circle. Because some people who've built companies, from 0 to 500 or 10,000 employees, they know like when those inflection points happen, and you have to think about it. Like for example, we hired an HR person, and we were 40 people. Like, why would I hire an HR head of a developer if you think about, the fact that I had limited budget? So we wanted to invest in that, piece of the pie, basically.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for questions.
Great.